Tape recorder running?
Recorder is
Or
on.
digital recorder, I guess.
Yep.
Call this finance committee meeting to order. First one is sales tax revenue. Wow. What more can we say? But wow.
So yeah, for 2018, sales tax revenue continues to be strong. Year over year, stronger than 2017 even.
Yeah.
Stronger than our projection. So all signs are good from an economic standpoint that people are buying goods and collecting more money.
It's interesting that it jumps around. 10, 6, 11, 2, 12. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Well, except the two,
Was January.
but that's February. See that, so February's fewer days and probably a slower spending month.
But that's a
Yeah, but we
huge
would have
difference.
budgeted for that.
Yeah, because it's an average.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Mhm.
But as we were discussing earlier, that construction, we think a part of this is construction and construction activity. March and April really ramps up. Weather gets a little better.
Yeah.
So, 11.5 in January,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
February dropped to 2.4, and then it went back up to 12.8.
They're all good numbers.
Oh, yeah, whatever, I like it. Yeah. Yeah, it's somewhat the same that we've been seeing that the transit ours is up 14, a little over 14% over last year.
Okay.
So,
Total?
We budgeted 3%, didn't we? So if you add 3% to this 12 or 15%,
well, we budgeted
Right.
4% at transit.
and you're 14% over budget? Okay, so.
Or over last year?
It was over last year, but we did
Over
4%
last year,
over.
which is
We're
different
almost
than over
20% over last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, how much the
388 to 441.
Yeah.
20%.
That's- that average.
$80,000.
Yeah.
Almost.
So what's that on a percentage?
I'll tell you.
But I would suggest that transit gets sales tax from the entire county.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And obviously, the
14.
Silverdale retail area is going to produce.
But the county
They're
was
suffering.
complaining that they're down.
It's the
Is
Amazon.
that
It's the
right?
Amazon effect.
Oh, wow,
Because
okay.
the goods are, instead of me going to the mall and shop, now I buy it on Amazon and then.
And
sa-
Amazon pays sales.
Sales tax to us, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, ours is up 14.24%
We're up 14.
for March of 18 compared to March of 17. And year-to-date, we're 14.85%.
Yeah, we're on, same as you. Sean had a number 14. 14 and
Year over year.
Year over year, yeah. And REIT's healthy, and just a note, you know, on this $2 million total, we've spent about 600,000 of this if we need the contingency for Tremont. So we need to, because we took the bond proceeds and spent them for the park project. And the pathway.
But still, real positive, real good news.
Yeah,
So it's,
keep up the good work, huh? We're gonna give you all the credit for it.
all right. And that translates into our ending fund balances for all our funds, which I think, you know, as we're starting to talk about the budget for next year, this will be really important for a couple items. And it'll flow into the presentation I have here today. So I'll just call them out, a couple of things. Again, general fund, real healthy with 4.5 million in there. The stabilization fund, I know we've talked about that. Is that on track? It is not per our policy. So that's something that we'll continue to address.
1.2, I
kind of
think, is
as
the
it
number
comes.
it's supposed to be at, but we've been slowly working towards it.
Slowly working towards it. So we'll continue to do that in the next budgeting process and trying to close that gap to get to that policy level.
Now, is that a fixed number? Remind me.
No, it was a percentage.
It's a
It's a percentage, but
So
we-
that
we
percentage is
should've-
gonna continue to grow as
Correct.
well.
Yeah. Special revenues all real healthy. Again, the REITs the major driver in the special revenue category. When we get in to talk about some of these fund structure in this presentation today, I'll talk about the paths and trails. I see they have $7,000 there. So there's a couple proposals we'll have that will close some funds that we're not really using. We're not sure why we opened them to begin with. We don't really have money put into them. And paths and trails is an example where we got $7,000 in there that just kind of sits there year to year, and you can't really do much with that.
So where does your $96 come from the month?
I would guess interest, but that seems like a lot.
That'd be
Yeah.
a lot of interest. I want to invest in that one.
Yeah. Capital project is still healthy. Still a lot of funds for the Tremont project in there. And then, of course, water sewer funds are healthy, $9.5 million. And even the storm drainage funds are healthy. So again, city's in a really healthy position moving into the next budget cycle.
But some of those will be reduced because of Tremont, correct?
Yeah, the capital
Yeah.
funds will definitely be reduced. The water sewer, we'll have some reductions with these change orders.
And storm.
Stormwater.
And storm, correct. Yep. So if you're okay with that, we can turn to looking at the Tremont widening project. And on this,
If I could grab this article.
Yeah, I didn't get one.
oh, you didn't get one? Here, take mine.
It was in the middle of the table back.
Oh, okay.
It died.
That must have been the spreadsheet that he didn't like.
It is, this is,
In the middle, we can see that so far year-to-date actual expenditures, we've spent roughly $6.8 million on the project. Still under budget, but we've talked about this before, that we're starting to get above ground and starting to see some major expenses coming through here. So far, still in good, although we had a couple of change orders over the last month or so. That's eating into contingencies a little bit.
Have any of the contingencies changed, or just the ones that we're aware of?
Ones you're aware of. We still don't have closure. The change order 2, which is the second sewer line, we don't have the real number yet, but we should by the next council meeting, and we're still working on the number for the water line. It should be about 120-ish, we think, but we don't have the actual number yet on that.
I'll point this out because I don't know if this was on the spreadsheet last time, but in the gray box at the very bottom there, where we talked about the funding sources, you'll note the REIT is part of the funding source there with $677,000. That was part of that budget amendment. So we are tracking that as well, and we've reduced the bond proceeds likewise in the spreadsheet. And Rob and I were talking beforehand, didn't really have any new news regarding Tremont. So nothing new news shared.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's $1 difference between actual expenditures, cumulative totals, in your gray box.
Yeah, but in reality, we're about $500,000.
I'm not gonna worry
Change
about
orders.
dollars, no,
Yeah.
it's what's actually been spent,
Yeah.
6.7 million.
Yeah.
It's just a dollar
Oh,
off.
I see.
Yeah.
You know, every penny counts.
obviously.
There's probably
around it.
pennies on one side and not the other. But
Rounding.
A rounding, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have in the next couple months again, as we talked, are going to be busy for the Tremont project. So it'll be exciting to see what we get at the actually end of August and September. So we got a lot of construction work planned for then, hopefully.
So really, we've spent 61%? No, that's what we had estimated, we would be spending 61%, but right now we're at 40%?
40%, right. Right.
We're in prime construction season, so.
Yeah, it's not right.
So that's the good news with Tremont, it's still moving along.
Still feeling
Moving
fine.
along. So, rather than have a bunch of handouts, I put together a bunch of presentations. but I told Rob I tried to make these as visual as possible, so not a whole lot of verbiage, but just
Good pictures.
good pictures. All right, so the first topic I have here is fund structure review. So I want to bring this to the Finance Committee's attention as we move towards budget season. There's a couple things we want to do with our overall fund structure. Again, we have identified some funds that may not be necessary, they're redundant, the naming's not necessarily clear. And then as we build this E&RR fund, we would like to close off several funds and move all those funds to the E&RR fund and manage it from a single fund. So I just want to give you guys an overview of what it kind of looks like now. Here's our current structure. We have our our governmental funds here, our general fund, street fund, our stabilization fund, our construction fund, and this is where the naming starts to get a little confusing. Our cumulative reserve for equipment, municipal equipment fund, we'll come back to that, and then the street capital fund. Special revenue, this is the one I want to talk about possibly closing, paths and trails, again, not a whole lot of money in it, nor has there been any activity really in it.
Will that change with the pedestrian path project?
No, because we received part
Goes
of
through the
this
street.
into the impact fee fund. So we already have a fund set up to receive impact fees. So again, I was talking with Rebecca where this came about, and she couldn't remember why at one point. And we looked at other cities, not other cities that really have a paths and trails fund. As long as you're accounting for your dollars appropriately, you don't need a whole fund for it. So if I move on to the restructure proposal. So identified in red the ones we want to close, and I'm calling it it's the equipment for the governmental fund. Actually, start on the far right. So what we now is established a new category of a fund, which is internal service fund, the ER&R. And we haven't decided whether we want to combine these into a single fund or keep it 501 and 502. So we'll come back to that. It's not important for the moment. But conceptually, you can understand we'll have an E&RR fund. And what we have here with this fund here, this is an equipment reserve fund meant to replace equipment. And that is really our intent with the E&RR fund, is to start creating a program set funds into this account and purchase the vehicles out of this fund. So we want to take all the resources in this and move it to the E&RR. Again, it will be designated for governmental and general equipment purchases, but we're trying to consolidate into a single fund. We're also going to propose closing water sewer equipment replacement fund. Again, moving this to the E&RR fund. Likewise, the storm drainage equipment replacement fund, moving it to the E&RR fund. So again, what we're hopefully trying to do is eliminate some redundancy, consolidate the funds that we have here and move them to the E&RR fund, and manage that as a program.
Within the ER&R fund, will there be subcategories for the water and the storm drainage as
Yes.
compared to?
Yeah,
so that-
you have to keep them
Right.
separate.
Okay.
So we will have governmental general fund, and we're even talking about identifying it by department perhaps. So police department would have their own, public works would have their own, admin would have their own. But we're trying to figure out how
that's going to look.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't want it to be overly complex and doing more than it really is. But the enterprise funds you have to call out and you have to account for those separately and use those funds to purchase enterprise vehicles.
At what point would you ever look to do some sort of a parks fund? I mean, as
I
we
was going to ask
continue
the same question. Where do we track parks? Is that just under current
It's
expense?
in the general fund.
Well, currently all the park impact fee money goes into the
That's
impact fee
that's
fund.
different though than maintenance.
But the maintenance of it is paid for out of the general fund.
Well, we still have that policy that was adopted 100 years ago about admission fees, admission
Oh, mission,
tax.
yes, yes.
That still
That's
goes
correct.
in there.
Yeah, and it still goes in there, yeah. And I can pull up those balances for you, if you like.
Oh, that's fine. I just,
Yeah, that goes into what we call the recreation reserve. It's a reserve in
It
the
wasn't
general
100
fund.
years ago, it was only 12, right when I got birthed on the council.
anything beyond yesterday was 100 years as far as I'm concerned.
So this would be the proposal restructure, and then this is what you kind of end up like. And what I like is we're being consistent across our different disciplines. So you have your general fund, your current expense, your street fund. These are really operational. You have your
Stabilization.
Thank you. Stabilization, which is really our emergency fund, right? And then you have a capital construction fund for general government, and you have a capital construction fund for street projects, okay? Now, when I move to my enterprise funds, you have the same structure. You have your water sewer operation, you have what I would propose a water sewer stabilization fund, okay? And then you'd have your water sewer capital construction fund. Similarly, on the storm, you have your operations, construction, and your stabilization.
Will this
Can water
require
and
a
sewer
policy?
be combined? Or are they separate utilities?
Currently,
They're
in the city,
combined.
they are combined.
Yeah.
So we've had the conversation, should we separate them? Should we keep them together? What's the pros and cons of separating them? Because right now we're a water sewer utility. And I can honestly go back and forth. For transparency, it's almost easier to have them separated. But
Well, that's what I'm thinking, is
sometimes-
because we deal with the
Ca-
rates
cash
specific
flow.
to the utilities. And
Right.
if we have to demonstrate to the community why we want to change rates, it's easy to,
Yes.
here's the utility that we're dealing with.
Right, and I'd say this fund restriction is almost like a baby step in that direction, because, yeah, again, we're pulling out the capital, making sure the capital's, currently, the capital construction is being paid out of our operations. It's an operations and capital fund, so I'm trying to peel that off itself, say, here's operations, now here's capital. So you're starting to get some of that clear transparency with the different fund structure. And again, I'm
But
trying
if
to
you're
make
gonna
it,
do this, is this the time to do it, to separate it?
I don't know that we're, from a cash flow standpoint, we're ready. Until we've got this, because this will be a policy decision. We don't currently have this, do we?
no, we don't currently have this.
Oh, I'm just
So
talking
once we have a
generically.
stabilization fund, then maybe we could, because we have to be able to pay the bills. And if we're light on one side from a cash flow standpoint, you know, I think that's the problem.
Well, if we haven't broken them out, we really don't
We could.
know.
They're all lumped together in one big bucket.
Right, they're all
right?
lumped together,
Yeah.
and we haven't gone through the exercise
Yeah.
of how much, and, you know, how difficult would that be to get to, how much of that is actually water, and how much is actually sewer.
Well, I think we do have all that information.
We do have all the
I
information.
mean,
We
it
can-
would
we
be
can
relatively
definitely get
just
that.
coded incorrectly is all.
Yeah.
Well, this is all in one bucket.
Yeah.
Currently, it's all in
One
one
bucket.
bucket, I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
I'm suggesting if you're gonna go through this, is there any merit to take it to the next step on separate water? Then you got water, you got sewer, and you got stormwater, three
Right.
separate utilities.
Yeah.
Because the rates are all different for each one. And when we look at establishing a rate, we look at the expenses for that particular utility. We don't look at it combined.
Yeah.
From a policy directive though, do you want this to be, the stabilization to be one fund? Because that hasn't happened yet. We haven't
Yeah,
created,
no, I
we haven't
appreciate
created this,
that.
and
I
we need
know
to
we
create
haven't
that
done that.
policy. And we don't have to solve that today. I'm
No.
just raising
No,
the
no.
question.
The only,
yeah.
I mean,
I
what
think
difference
you-
does it make?
I think you'd separate it. I think if these are true enterprise funds
Yeah.
that need to take care of itself, then each one should have its own stabilization fund.
The
because-
stabilization would be a
Because the
percentage
cash
of
flow
that.
needs could be different. You
Yeah.
know, You'd be having to fund one at a higher rate.
Well, it's all gonna be percentage related, so the stabilization for sewer
Right,
appropriately should be different than water.
right.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
this-
thinking now, if
yeah.
you're gonna go through this exercise, might as well just do it all.
We could, and I just want, because I've thought this since I got here, John, honestly, on this, because where I came from, we had a water fund. All, the, you know, operations, reserves, and construction. Sewer, same model. And it made a lot of sense to me, so I can understand the whole water sewer tying concept. I guess where we started looking at that and we kind of hesitated with all the different water projects, sewer projects, trying to think about the implications of borrowing against this fund versus a water-only fund, a sewer-only fund. And I think we just took a pause and said, okay, I want to think on this a little bit more, make sure we're aware of the ramifications and outcomes if we do this kind of split, which I think makes sense a lot. I really do. I just wasn't ready to propose it yet.
Yeah, well.
But I could
think about
separate
it,
the
but I think-
capital out of the operations. I felt
I
like that
think
was
it makes
the main-
sense to separate it, but
What's the treasurer's trust and agency fund? Is that where you go on the treasurer's boondoggle, or?
No, these are just funds we hold for other entities, like the water treatment facility. When we get those funds come in, they're not our money, but we hold it as the trust and then remit that to,
So that's the
Was that-
sewer treatment plan.
right.
Okay, but that's,
But you're asking 631, what is
Yeah.
that?
yeah.
What's account 631 for?
631.
That's 632 is the treatment.
I'll have to look. It's only got $8,000 in there, so it's not for much. But I can look and find out what it's for.
Sounds like the treasurer's slush fund to me.
Well, again, kind of like what John was saying on water sewer, I mean, at what point do we start looking at I think, our parks as they start growing, I think we're gonna start asking some of those questions on needs
I
and
would-
maintenance and
Yeah, I wouldn't.
should we separate that out of general fund, just so we kind of have a better idea
It's
of
cool,
what's
it's
going
gonna
on.
come out of there, and it's just a budgeting, the exercise, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could make that argument for just about any one of our operations. You've got the police department. Should they be broken out?
Well, you have the criminal justice fund.
That's different money.
That's
too.
different.
that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's special money.
Right.
The next one is really special.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show you the different fund structure of what I'd like to propose in this budget season. As again, babysitting, we can come back to circle and do we want to split the
I think
water
it makes
sewer out?
sense.
Again, it's really extracting the capital operations so we can have that conversation very clearly and closing some funds that are redundant to what we're trying to achieve in the ER&R. Okay, so with that, I'll move to the ENR and I'll come back to these two because these two are fairly short. Actually, I'll do the short ones because they're short. Small and attractive assets. I'd like to create a small and attractive assets policy. The purpose is pretty simple. We already have it in the financial policies that at some point someone decided that $4,000 and above was a capital asset. Now, best practices for cities are about $5,000. So I don't know how someone's circling 4,000. What I heard is that was the number they liked. It was that simple. So I'd like to change that to 5,000 to be consistent with other cities' best practices. And it also helps us to define our inventory level slightly different. So anything less than 300, we're just going to call it operational supply. We don't need to tag it. We don't need to track it. Anything from 300 to 5,000, 499 is where you say, hey, these are small attractive assets. These are something that you got to tag and inventory and it could get up and walk away. So that's why you inventory it. Anything above, it's going to be a 5,000 capital. But for the ER fund, we want to set a $10,000 threshold because you can't really buy a vehicle for $5,000. So we want to keep it kind of a higher level. So we don't have a policy now. I'd like to write one up, and these are the kind of the real elements of it, just to make clear what's capital, what's our UNR threshold, and then what do we have that's inventory, so we're not chasing around.
So you
everything.
would do your capital simply off of value and not off of life expectancy?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be capital, it has to have a year or more of life expectancy. So you're already there with a year or more. It used to be 18 months, so somewhere along the line that kind of declined. But the real value is that 5,000. You can't really buy much for less than 5,000.
Correct.
I don't know what you buy for a governmental
Right.
operation. You're buying
Right.
paper, ink, supplies really. And then some of the stuff can fall in here, like computers, laptops. You want to inventory that stuff and track it. But it's a lot of work to do inventory in. So I want to break it into some reasonable levels that we're not trying to inventory something for $100 and track that around.
Do you know, I mean, have you taken a deep dive into this ER threshold at 10,000 plus? Do you know what those assets are and what the total value is?
Of ours? Yes. Yeah, so that'll be the next part of
Your
the
comment, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah, we don't really have any real ENR assets. I mean, we could set that at a higher value.
No,
Just
that's
10,000,
fine.
I guess,
I
felt
was
right.
just curious what
Similar to
that's
the
gonna
core.
mean as we
Right.
start looking to fund ER&R, what that's gonna be maybe on an annual percentage
Yes,
of income.
yeah, so that'd be part of this. So part of this ENR is it actually ballooned into multiple things. A fund restructure to get everything in the right place. We need to have small attractive assets to get things in the right categories. Part of it's fleet standardization. And I was trying to kick this over to Public Works to do it and haven't got a lot of traction.
And we waited a year, so now we're just financing it.
So I'm standardizing the vehicles and we're having an all-electric fleet. Very excited about it. I only half joke because there is a state law where you're supposed to, you probably are more familiar
Yeah.
with the law that you're supposed to be converting over from
Yes, we are.
fuel to biofuels and electric vehicles. So there is a
Everything
law
this
on the
year.
books. You're supposed to be doing it this year. So it's not a bad idea to look at it for actually admin vehicles that run the city, 200 miles or less. Hey, electric vehicle would be a good way to go, to save on fuel costs. But different topic. So fleet standardization. Why is the city going to do fleet standardization? Because we want to simplify our purchasing process. We want to standardize our mechanics training. So we want to have a mechanic that's familiar with a certain fleet of vehicles, Dodge, Ford, whatever kind of we decide that is. For police, it's Fords. For public works, I guess it's going to be Dodges. We want to lower our cost of parts by buying in bulk, same vehicles, same parts. There's nothing special about truck to truck, which will also improve our maintenance. If we have the same fleet, everyone's familiar with what you're doing, oil changes, filters. The next couple I think are really important for the mayor and the council is actually branding and the city identity. I think it's important that when our public works vehicles and police vehicles go out in the public, they look the same. Our crews look the same, they got the same uniforms on, they're recognizable, they're clean. I like the wave image that we got going on. So I think that's a big part of why you want to standardize your fleet is you create a brand that everyone can recognize when you're driving around town. It's the same public works vehicle, same color scheme, everything.
Thomas and I are working on too. It's baseball caps, because we've got various breweries and sports teams, and we just don't look like the way we should represent the city.
Real quick, back on that other slide there. So the first 4 bullet points, which I agree with every one of them. But why would you have 2 different brands? Why wouldn't you go all 4 to really take advantage of those first 4 bullets?
The Ford SUVs are really the only, for the police, it's really the only thing that's out there that's available. And probably the SUVs we're probably gonna buy are probably gonna all be Ford Escapes or Explorers. Explorers are the cops vehicle. The Public Works Department is really, they prefer the Dodge pickup. And so far, that's what our mechanic's saying is the better vehicle. So we're not trying to drive that from here, but what they say in the field is the best tool.
I was just thinking.
So the half-ton to 3/4 ton, truck, half-ton and 3/4 ton pickup truck is the Dodge, and is what they say is held up the best. We've got Chevys and we've got Dodges.
Yeah, so I guess
fleet.
we've actually been having Gretchen run around and get pictures of current fleet. So this is the before picture. This is kind of what the police vehicle looks like before, and again, this is where we're going to go after. And the police department's actually been real good about replacing 3 vehicles a year. So get to the Ford question. Well, we've already been in this kind of replacement cycle of buying these Ford Explorers, standardizing the look, feel. So I'm just kind of going with what you guys have already done.
Sure.
On the public works front, we have not been as consistent as the police. And again, going with their feedback, they're saying, hey, Dodge is the way to go. But again, here you see the before. We got lots of trucks out here that look like the before and the after. And I think that's where you want to get. You want to have a single fleet of trucks that look clean, have the logo, recognizable, that this is a City of Port Orchard public utility vehicle.
White and the new logo is where we're trying to go to. All of them will be white.
Where can you, I guess I'm picking up on Sean's comment. Where can you get the Dodges worked on? Can they be done over in Bremerton?
Our mechanic works on.
Well, presumably when we first buy them, they're under warranty, and you're
yeah.
going to take them to the dealer.
Yeah, we take them to
So it's in Bremerton?
Yeah, even if we haven't bought it there, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the mayor said, I'm not trying to drive the decision with the
Oh, I
vehicles because I don't.
appreciate that.
I don't
Yep.
I'd say it's all electric. Let's go
We
electric. vehicles. That's
typically
my
don't
choice,
buy
so.
from either one of our local dealers.
We've bought the state contract, which is coming out of Longview.
And then on the admin front, again, here's the before. I think it's a Jeep, and
That's an Isuzu on the left. Well, we got an
the planning
Isuzu and
department,
a Jeep.
Isuzu. So
We've got 3 different types of vehicles, and the one on the right is really what we like to go to,
yeah.
which is the Ford Escape.
So again, and that fits in kind of with the standardized fleet. We don't have a whole lot of admin vehicles, so it's not a big change in fleet turnover. It's really in
So,
public works and
What
police.
are we doing to comply with the law?
Nothing that I'm aware of at this point.
So we're just ignoring the law?
Well, we haven't bought any vehicles.
Okay.
So the law does
We're gonna have to.
provide for
next
that. There's a certain size.
Anything you buy this year,
Yeah.
We bought actually that earlier this year.
then you just violated the law.
I'm not I don't know, I'm gonna rely on the procurement.
Well, I didn't
folks.
buy that, but. But
No,
I think
seriously,
the law.
the next one that you
yeah,
buy, what are you
yeah.
gonna do? What's the plan?
I think the plan is seriously, and I'm using electric as a joke, but I think seriously that
We
should
should
be
be.
a policy.
And
should be
but we've
looking
gotta-
for to address the law.
Part of what I propose to do with City Hall is, we need to bank start charging stations over here.
I was
and
gonna say,
we need
until we can charge
infrastructure.
'em.
We don't have infrastructure to support it at this point, and we need to get there.
But is that an excuse? Does the law provide you that
I don't know.
option?
I think it does. I
I
think
don't
it
think it
provides.
does.
I think it gives entities of a certain size a little transition time to make their plan. The larger entities don't have that leeway, so I don't think transit would. But some of the smaller cities, there's a little provision there that says they're in a reasonable time frame. So I think if you can work around that and start making a plan, this is how we're going to do it.
Check it,
Yeah.
I will check it.
because I don't think, they gave you the leeway of warning us for the last 3 or 4 years. At
Yeah.
effective 18, you have to do this, so it's not like, oh gee, I gotta start buying something different.
Right.
In the next budget, part of those programming for City Hall and the improvements, I'm gonna propose that we put charging
No,
stations down here.
that's fine. It's just
Because
that-
we need to get to that
But,
point where we got
but
those
check
right.
it, because I'm not even quite sure that hybrids will qualify. So, you know, when you come, especially when you buy new dump trucks and that sort of thing, you're gonna
Right.
have to come up with, I mean, the only way that we're gonna be able to do it, wholesale is using biodiesel. But it's tough to put biodiesel in that little car.
Right. Right.
It is.
But our bigger,
Yeah.
Vehicle.
And we have them
The
buy.
bigger, you know, the diesel
right,
motors can run on biodiesel. But then you have to have a source for it. We buy
Right.
just off the street, don't we?
Yes.
Where do we get our fuel?
Yeah.
Off the street.
Who's got purchasing the car?
No, you probably need to look into that because it's potentially can bite you.
Okay, you got 10 more minutes, because I need the last 10 minutes.
Okay, that's good. So that all leads us to the ERR conversation. Since I got 10 minutes, I'm gonna go through it really quickly. That's okay, though. I'll email this to you guys. Again, part of this is I'm getting your feedback to what to bring to the full council regarding ERR. And you guys can see the different pieces, how it kind of fits together. It's not necessarily standalone, but it's all kind of connected. So I'll try to find a way to weave that concisely together. The equipment rental revolving fund. I got this statute here. I'm not gonna read it to you. But overall, what we're doing with the ERR fund is assets will be managed out of the fund and quote rented back to the departments to cover the following: operations, maintenance, and replacement. To start this fund, the assets or the fleet will be transferred to the fund with an additional cash contribution representing the depreciated value.
At one time?
Well, in a perfect world.
Yeah, I know. That's
So
what
let's work from the
asking.
perfect world, and then we'll kind of talk about some
And then we'll do the
strategies.
budget.
Then we'll talk about the strategies.
Okay.
In a perfect world, you take your trucks, you put them in the fund, and you'd say, okay, we've depreciated this vehicle over the last 5 years. We should have at least 50,000 saved up on the side to move with them into this fund. So you have cash and the assets. Okay. So we're assessing the fleet at the replacement value for the end of its projected useful life. And again, departments will make annual rental contributions to the fund for operations, maintenance, and replacement.
So in theory, when you get to the end of the useful life, you should have enough rental to replace it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
cash is
You should
there.
cover the operations as you're going, you should cover the maintenance
Fully
as you're going.
funded depreciation.
And then
Yep.
have enough cash to replace it. So when we looked at our current fleet at replacement cost, we're about $4.75 million. When we looked at the depreciated value of the cash that we should have set aside, we should have $2.85 million set aside, which means our assets are about $1.9 million going into the fund. Okay, so far so good.
Other than finding the cash.
Other than finding the big pie chart. So we've identified it, what the makeup of the fleet is. And you can see that of the $2.85 million, 1.3 should be coming from general fund, for general fund type vehicles. I have water up here, but it's really water dash sewer. 785,000 should be coming from water sewer, and you have storm, and then street.
Did you put all those vehicles on a 5-year?
No,
No.
no, they're on a different.
Many of our vehicles are 10 years old.
No, absolutely. I think a water truck would be way more. And that's what I was asking. It's like, I don't know, all the straight.
Yeah, no, and so that's a different issue, Sean. If we put it on what you would say is kind of a financeable useful life, these numbers go up, right? If you say that a cop car shouldn't be depreciated in 10-year life, it should really be on 5 to 3, which is probably truer to the actual use of the vehicle, these numbers go up.
Right.
So before I scared everybody with big numbers, I just went with kind of what we had.
These are big numbers.
Bigger numbers.
Bigger numbers, yeah. So that'll be something, again, strategy to address over time. So I'm looking at the biennial budget, 2019, for 2019 only, okay? We're gonna start the ENR for 2019, 2020, I wanna look at it by fiscal year. We have a need of $2.85 million, and here's the different funding that needs to be addressed. So what sources do we have to address it? Well, in the fund restructure spreadsheet, I showed you a couple funds I want to close and move them to the ENR. Those funds would represent about $1 million, $998,000 of reserves, that cash we actually have. Okay, so we're only short the other one point something.
Not by 800. Oh, no. Oh, I see.
2 million.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
1.8.
1.9.
So then what that would mean is, based on the rest of the fleet, our governmental, I'm saying governmental because not just general, it'd be general and street, so governmental funds would need to contribute 1.3 million, and our enterprise funds would need to contribute $500,000. So in a perfect world, we put the cards in and we take the funds, this cash, and put it in the fund, and we're whole for 2019. And now we've actually established the ENR fund the way it was supposed to be funded. For 2020, the number's a lot less, which is the good news. Payments to the fund would be about $256,000. Again, this is just for the replacement depreciation value. So when I looked at the overall budget for the 1920 period, we have a need of $3.1 million going into the fund. We have roughly $1 million from reserves. We need about $1.5 million from governmental funds, and the other $600,000 from enterprise funds. Now, the enterprise funds doesn't scare me so much because you can see $94,000 if you look at our fund balances. I think we can fund that. I think our water sewer fund, again, we could probably fund that. So I think we can cover the enterprise funds. It's really the governmental fund contribution we will have to talk about strategies. Okay, either we take a big hit, a lot of cash up front, or you say there's going to be a transition period, we're going to tackle this over the next 4 years, similar to the stabilization fund. That's not fully funded yet, but we have an intent, we have a policy directive to continue to chip away at this.
But we would be buying vehicles over those 4 years.
Excellent. So let's talk about that. So far we talked about the
Good segue.
budget,
Yeah,
the budget need.
you're
Okay,
welcome.
so this is how I tee up the budget. This is what we should be budgeting. This graph will show you again the rental for replacement. Again, it's a nice picture because it's decreasing over time, although what's not built into here is once we acquire the new vehicle, we'll then have a new schedule. So this is just looking at current fleet, depreciating it all the way across.
For 10 years.
Yeah, only 10 years. I didn't think you guys needed to really see much further out.
Yeah, no,
When we break this down by fund, you'll see that the main players are the general fund, street fund, and water fund. And a little bit of storm.
As you go beyond, do you think that graph's gonna pretty much just,
I think the whole
Level
graph
off.
will level off because once we acquire a new vehicle, now all of a sudden we're going to be setting aside cash each year for the replacement of that based on the useful life. So you'll see all these numbers kind of tick up in the outer years, which should level off to a certain level.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that 256,000
Right.
over time.
right?
And it depends how quickly we replace them. And when we look by
Very quickly.
department, again, you see that's mainly police and public works, which makes a lot of sense. So I just wanted to break that down. Now to Beck's question, how are we going to purchase this stuff? So one's the funding side. How do we start the fund? And what are going to be the payments ongoing over time? Okay, those seem to be doable. The capital purchase plan is, okay, now we're operating the fund. What are we going to actually purchase out of this fund next year in the 2019-2020? So when we looked at the vehicles that we should be retiring and replacing, we would purchase about $875,000 worth of equipment. And I broke that down over here, if I can pull this up.
There's 4 police cars and a couple of sewer
Yeah.
water vehicles.
Yeah, the number seemed really big to me at first, and then I kind of looked down, okay, yeah, that makes sense. There's one vac truck in there for like $260,000, so then you get 6 police vehicles at $300,000 total.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause it's 2
2
years.
years, that's right.
Right.
4, it should be 7, actually. 3
Right.
and 3, and then the one we're
Right.
getting the insurance money on. So, yeah, well, it's 2 years. And then a couple of pickups for public works.
So when I look at the purchases by fund, I say the water fund portion of our ENR would purchase $386,000 worth of vehicles. The street fund would purchase $106,000, and then our general fund, $383,000. Again, these purchases aren't coming out of the storm, or aren't coming out of these funds. It's just their line items in the ENRR. These are general fund vehicles. These are water fund vehicles. So the portion of the water fund and the ENR would be paying for that. Again, break it down by department and see Public Works and Police.
So
But-
why, just quick question here, so if we're gonna buy $300,000 worth of cars in 2019,
Okay.
they're all the same age, they all have the same life expectancy, why don't we have another bar somewhere in the future that's at least $300,000?
That was my question.
I just haven't built it in yet.
How many
Okay.
police cars do we have total?
20. Throwing a dart.
I mean, if we're buying 3 a year, it takes us how long to replace that fleet?
3 it used to be 2, and then when we came out of the economic downturn, we ramped it up by 1 to 3 because we added some police officers.
Okay,
when
so say
added
we have 21.
So,
So it takes us 7 years so we should, kind of what Sean was saying, if we're buying 3 a year, we should have 3 a year shown
Yeah,
up
it should
there.
be flat across there.
Would be flat.
I can look into it. I think the
But
numbers
this
are
year's
right.
an anomaly, no, because we know we're replacing 7 though, because we didn't. do
biennial,
it-
it's a biennial budget. It's
Biennial,
4. It's
yeah.
4.
Yeah, but it's
Right, but
these
he's
are
got that,
annual
those are
numbers.
annual.
Right, those are annual.
And it could be, Deb, because again, we were going by the data of when the car was purchased and its useful life. And I don't know if the police vehicles are at 10 years or something. They're much larger than they really should be. So again, that's why I said that's a different issue.
Yeah,
If I-
but
if
see,
I
we're
shrunk
out
that
10 years,
down-
and I'm just not seeing that.
Yeah,
Right.
we should
300
Right.
have 700, we should have 7 years just aligned.
Yeah, just flat. Well, you would think that it would just
It might
continue.
not start for another 5 or 7 years.
Right.
But
Right.
We've been doing a much better job. I'm way more comfortable with the police fleet than I am the public works
Works
fleet.
fleet.
We've been consistently replacing vehicles in the police department.
Well,
we haven't bought a pickup truck in forever.
Not that it makes a whole heck of a lot of difference, but for a while, we were buying, 2 a year, and then that third year, we'd buy 3
Yeah.
Right.
on a Scandinavian
Yeah.
system.
So
like that.
I mean, it's a concept. These
Right.
these
I
aren't.
love the concept.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
great concept.
How much you get?
Almost, yeah, no, I think this is it. So again, overall summary, capital purchases for the 2019-2020 budget would be $1.2 million worth of acquisitions, okay? Payments to the ENR fund for replacement only would be $3.1 million. Payments to the ENR fund for operations would be roughly $300,000, and that covers fuel and car washes and operational type stuff. And then for maintenance, we're talking about salaries, so the mechanic's salary split amongst the different activities and supplies, about $350,000. Now the good news on the far two right ones, those are monies that we're already spending.
Mhm.
We're just spending out the general fund, the
Yep.
street fund, the
Yep.
water fund. So now again, we're just kind of consolidating to a single fund to be able to understand our fleet better.
And the big hit on this side is just the original funding of the
Funding.
fund.
It's the original, that's right.
Yeah.
Playing catch-up.
That's
The
right, the
initial.
catch-up.
Yeah.
And the good news, again, we already have $998,000 to help us.
Right.
It's closing the gap, and I think for the enterprise, we'll be okay.
So
Just
do
the
we do
governmental-
that, like you said, in one shot, or do we do it over a series
I
of
think
5
it'll
years?
play out
How many-
as a budget process. I think
How many
it'll have to be
assets
raised.
over $10,000 do you think we have? Do we have 150 items?
Over 10,000? All, I don't think we have a single, in the ENR fund?
No, how many total, like how many
Total.
items
gosh.
do we have to track on this capital? You know what I mean?
Oh,
ERRs, we look into the
uh,
future, what's our inventory of items that we would be putting onto this replacement cycle?
I don't know, offhand.
Because when we're talking equipment, are we just talking rolling stock?
We're talking, yeah.
Rolling
yeah.
stock
So
is
we're
what-
only talking rolling
We have
stock.
other assets that are
Yeah.
over
I was
10,000.
gonna say,
Yeah.
this doesn't
They're just
include
capital
servers.
assets.
No, no.
Not,
and-
the
but we
building's
talked
not
about
being a
that,
part of
yeah.
this?
No.
No,
Okay.
no, building's not part of this. This is really only covering rolling stock right now.
Okay.
And again, I always think of baby steps. If you can get this started and operating and working right, I think in the future you want to roll in your IT equipment, your servers, kind of some of that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, primarily we want to get better trucks on the road and police cars
Okay.
replaced on a programming manner.
Nice thing is, we're
So it's
almost
not
done funding the stabilization fund. And if not in this next biennial budget, for sure the next one, we'll be done with that. So we can take some of that cash to put it to this.
When are we done, and this may come out of water sewer, but when are we done with that step process, or whatever we call it out of?
Full
About
conversion.
4 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do we put into the stabilization fund every year? Do you know, right now, currently, what our budget is?
It's on that report a month.
Well, 12, so it's just $1,200 a month?
Yeah, times 12. Yeah. It's not huge. We're close.
1,000.
It should have been like 1.2 million, and as John said, it's
Yeah,
gonna, that number, that commitment's gonna grow. So
200,000.
we're a couple 100,000 short of where we need to be, and we'll narrow that gap by the end of the year.
Yeah. So I think that these are kind of things we'll talk on the budget is, okay, we're gonna budget a certain amount of general fund money. How do you wanna fund your stabilization to continue to close that gap? How do you wanna close the gap here? I think for here was at least comforting to me is that the planned purchases, according to this, is $876,000. Okay, so if we said, hey, we're just gonna go with the purchases, that's $876,000. Well, we have $876,000 to make those purchases. So even though we really want to get the full thing funded and capture all the past depreciation that we didn't fund, at least we'll have the cash to get through 19 and 20 to make the purchases, then again, chip away at those future years of value that you need
If we get to
put in
anything
there.
beyond the 800,000 we have, we set this fund up and get to anything beyond, it's a step in the right direction. It'd be nice to find $1.5 million to make it whole, but we got a lot of other, yeah.
And that's why I was happy to see some
Yeah,
healthy balances.
it's all helping. Okay, I got,
Yep.
you're gonna give me.
You are good.
Okay, I got a few housekeeping items. You guys can tell me no. I've got a crazy idea here. We're all hearing. That's fine. You're hearing about all of the crazy things going on in Seattle with their head tax, and Bremerton's now stopped their marketing piece. I mean, there are. This is in this week's Business Journal. There are 585 companies that will be affected by this head tax. I would like to consider us putting an ad in the Business Journal and a positive piece about the business opportunities in Port Orchard. And if we attracted one company, I mean, in particular, I've talked to somebody at Microsoft and how they got the office in Silverdale. You know, we're not in running for that anything like that, but Amazon in particular, they've got a number of customer support and call center jobs that pay $15, $18 an hour. Those jobs are going to leave Seattle, and I don't want to see them in Oregon or Arizona. Why not here? If there's an opportunity.
Do we have the infrastructure here to support some of those?
We've got folks talking about projects. If I got them a tenant, I'm a bit throwing darts, and whatever the ad is, I'd bring it back.
What I really like is the thought of it, but one of the things that I learned a long time ago in marketing, because that's what you're doing, you're marketing the city. If you can't support your
sustain it.
marketing, you've created a much worse situation for
Yeah.
yourself than you did beforehand. I would like you to take it to economic development. And we have John Powers coming this week, or this next
Okay.
meeting.
I'll bring
And
this.
just talk about, I would like him to spend some time talking about what do the companies need, so that we're taking the steps necessary. And if it is just getting the players together so that the developers create the infrastructure that the company needs, or, you know, a potential business needs.
My thought is just making a splash and a headline for Port Orchard. When I tell you the price, you're probably going to tell me, hell no. But a full page ad, color ad, is $7,800, and a half page is $5,200. So it's expensive, and I wouldn't want to sustain it. I just want to do.
But we have to be prepared
We
to,
get that a lot last month. That's their rack rate.
right.
Well, and I agree with Beck, and that's why I said, do we have the infrastructure to support it? What are you gonna do if that generates a call? What are you gonna tell them? Duh. I mean, we
Well, I'm
need to
gonna-
be prepared for it, whether it be through the EDC or we have our story ready to
Together.
go.
Right, right.
Whatever it is, the message can't be just an ad.
But you're taking me to a place, the conversation takes me to a place that, again, with the budget, I don't know if it's anything we can afford, but we don't have anyone on staff right now that is a communication expert or a marketing expert. I would like to see if we could enter into a contract with someone to write our press releases, to do some of the things you're talking about, so that it all looks and feels the same.
PR firm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll bring it to economic development. I just want to let you know, the Sedgwick and Sydney paving, the county is doing a project from the county line up to Leiter in
Right.
2020, and they're starting the planning on it, and I had a very good conversation with 2 county commissioners, because county staff isn't excited about partnering with this, but 2 county commissioners were this morning.
Okay.
So I'm gonna push that, because I think we don't have the bandwidth, and we're gonna pay a consultant. I'd rather pay the county.
I think it's a great idea.
That-
I do too.
So, I would like to, we have 3 copiers, finance, court, and police that are coming due in July. Historically, we have, before we did our procurement processes, we have gone through a great big process to solicit bids. I don't think we should be doing that. There's just like these cars, there's a state bid or contract. We should be doing a needs analysis and selecting what the best copier is based off the needs analysis, and buy it off the state contract, and just bring a contract to the city council, and not spend 2 months going through a procurement process.
Okay, and then do we contract out the maintenance on that?
It comes with the lease from the state contract. It'll be the local folks, the same companies
So
we're
it's
dealing with.
not a buy, it's a lease
It's a
off
lease.
of the state.
It's a lease off the
contract.
state
Includes
contract.
maintenance.
Exactly.
Because I know that we have a contract right now with,
We have
firms.
we have at least 2 firms, and there's 3 firms that one of 3 firms, depending on the brand we buy. So I'm just a deviation from what
Right.
we've done in the
I
past.
think that makes sense.
And it's just gonna simplify the process. So, and then our land, okay. I just want to share with you. This is a letter that went out to the McCormick folks today. And it's A-Work, Thomas and Jennifer, what's Jennifer's last name?
Robertson.
She's a Bellevue City Council member. She is our insurance company, AWC's
She used to work-
contract attorney. She helped Thomas. She actually wrote this letter, and she reviewed the existing development agreement and state statutes, and came up with. So we sent this position out to the McCormick folks today. This is the kind of work. This took her 3 days, and this is A-Work. Okay. Sharon does a good job for us. We continue to struggle with Jeff and whoever else they throw at us. I would like to separate land use. I'd like to have some conversation with Jennifer, and if it doesn't work out with Jennifer, somebody else that's an expert in land use, and take that piece away from Lighthouse. Because we spent $5,000 in a year on an agreement that we never executed, and it's ridiculous. And we never. She gave us all the answers in 3 days, as what it should be. So I just want to. Lighthouse doesn't know that, but I think we're paying good money, and we need to get our money's worth out of these guys. And then my last little piece is Scott. What's your thoughts on this town hall meeting tonight? Scott emailed me late last night. He doesn't like the format. He didn't have any. I just emailed him back and said I'm open to suggestions. He doesn't want to sit in a row facing the audience, and that's just. I don't know what else. I'm trying to separate
he
the
like to
table.
do?
I don't know. He just doesn't like what we're doing. And so I just emailed back and said, what I'm trying to create here is an informal situation where we're not sitting at the dais above everybody else or across a table. Because I'm hoping we got more than 5 people up there. I don't know.
So where were you gonna sit us at?
Just like we did at McCormick, or when we did the
Just at the
City.
table on the same level.
we're not even at a table. I've just got a row of chairs facing the audience, and then I'm gonna walk around with the mic. We're gonna
We
get
did
some
that.
information from the county, and I don't know. Somebody got a better solution? Because
I don't see us intermixed in the audience.
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I'm fine with what you're planning, I just,
Okay, I was,
I don't know, I mean, I don't know why we would just sit up at the dais, what's the difference?
I'm just trying to eliminate barriers and, you know, I got Charlotte Garrido, who will be here tonight, sitting with you, with the council. I figured I wasn't gonna sit, I'm gonna walk around with the microphone. I think it's more, this isn't about, at least for me, this is listening to our community, and if they want this, we're gonna get some information from Solid Waste Division on, the county's done some legwork on this, on the impacts to the environment. And we're gonna get what I'm hoping to get Commissioner Garrido to tell us what the county's plan is, how they're gonna move forward with this. Because I think this is something, if we're gonna consider it, it's something that needs to be done countywide. Bainbridge has done it, Tacoma's done it, and I think that if, you know, we shouldn't step out, we could.
It'd be interesting to me to see how many people are in the audience.
Yeah.
Because it could be 4.
It could be, and maybe this isn't an issue for our community. And that's what I'm trying, I've been getting emails
What
and phone
kind-
calls about it.
Oh,
and
you
I just-
have, okay, so that's
Yeah.
encouraging to me.
Yeah.
you know, I guess I'm going with Sean, I guess I don't see a big difference between us down on the floor at the dais.
We're seeking information, we're hosting this meeting.
Charlotte could sit up there with us, we've got extra chairs.
Okay, I'll rearrange the room then. I've got the chairs down
I mean,
below.
I
Someone
guess
wants
I
to
don't
come
see
up and
the
speak.
merits of,
You know, they come up and speak, I think it's great, they can go right to the podium,
Okay, I'll put it back.
and then we can hear it, everyone can hear it, if there's people in the audience, they can hear it, versus
I just-
walking around a clumsy mic.
My concern, I believe that's very formal,
Right.
and I'm trying to create an informal environment.
well, if you're walking around with the mic,
Mhm.
that changes it from formal to informal.
Okay,
It's just a place for us to sit, you're creating that
okay.
atmosphere.
I wasn't gonna sit up at the dais
No,
or in
you
a
don't.
chair, I'm just trying to facilitate conversation.
And I don't see it as a back and forth necessarily.
No, it's not.
I don't think at all, it's soliciting information from the community.
I mean, do you want to have a structure? Do you want to try to limit people to 3 minutes so someone doesn't grab 20 minutes and goes off on
I
a
don't think
tirade?
I'll police it, I don't have a timer.
You got the microphone in.
I got the microphone, okay.
All right.
So, I don't think we're gonna be here but half an hour or 45 minutes.
I would vote for that.
Meeting's adjourned,
Means, okay.
since we're late.